All roads have led to this. It is the season finale of the Echoes of Fear podcast. I am your co-host, Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Kenton J. Moore doing drum roll on the desk, driving Jason nuts.
Whether you can hear it or not. And this is part 2 of our death talks. And last week we got into like the psychology of it, the cultural implications of it, the academic side of it.
The buried alive
part of it. Which for people who have that fear, and we just laugh raucously, we apologize if we offended you, but I just, I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, that question really caught Jason off guard.
This week, as is always the case, we get into more of how death is represented in popular culture.
Like everywhere.
Everywhere. Every horror movie, every action movie, every thriller, every romantic drama. Mm-hmm. From The Bard, Romeo and Juliet, to, I don't watch them anymore, romantic stuff, but like, Legends of the Fall, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Jaws.
Yeah. And also too, like how much this fear of death and thanatophobia and stuff drives supernatural movies like immortality, beating death, vampires, werewolves, immortal creatures, things that can't die, things that are free from the one thing that we can't escape.
That's right. But the price is astronomical that they pay.
Always.
But I want to start actually, because I think one of the best things I've watched about death was the final episode of the first season of Limitless on Disney Plus. This was Chris Hemsworth's show because he was diagnosed with the possibility of Alzheimer's, kind of like with your Huntington's, that there's in his DNA is that. So he underdid like 6 challenges to face that, like in terms of, extending your life, like, learning to control your stress, cold water therapy, strength building and all that. But the final episode, they put him in what they called like an old person suit that limited his visibility, his hearing, his movements to what it would be like to be in your 70s and your 80s, etc. And then the final thing the one that got me is he was invited. He's living like in a seniors complex, and he was invited to like a dance. But they brought his wife in and aged her to be like 80, wow. And how he would react to that, it didn't faze him.
Wow.
Like he saw her and that much, and it was just wow. But the final thing they did is they did basically like this death prayer. So they got him, they put him into a coffin. They went through the whole process of what that would be like at the end, and like this sort of like meditation. It was a death meditation, and he came out of it, and he just said it was probably one of the most peaceful experiences he's ever had in his life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that show. I see ads for it all the time, but I've never actually watched it. But it really makes me think, like, have you heard of a living funeral? Have you heard of living funerals?
No, I haven't.
It's like a new thing that some people were doing where they would have a funeral for a person that was still alive. You could get everybody together to give eulogies and everything while you lay quietly in a coffin and listen to the things that people would say about you.
That'd be interesting.
Well, for me, I just wonder how many people would actually care to do it.
Well, and like if you did this thing, they still know you're alive, so they're going to bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, knowing me with my buddies from the Navy, they'd be up there and be like, oh, yeah, remember that time you shit in a trash can?
So I don't think I'd want to do one for that. Right? But as we
I didn't actually do that, by the way.
Okay, you did? You never shit in a trash can? Well, good to know. Good to know. But like, there's like, where to even begin? Like, I think in pop culture, okay, I think with the way we handle death in pop culture, if it's handled right, it can help us kind of overcome this fear. Like in the Limitless episode. In shows that really portray it, that don't play on the fear of it, but portray it with like a certain amount of respect. I think it can be a great way to kind of overcome these fears. I think all of these representations of all these phobias we've talked about are a means of vicariously experiencing them without them actually happening. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about communication is really what it is. It's communication and education. It's teaching in an entertaining way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a recent example, and it plays into ghosts as well, but there's a movie Steven Soderbergh just made called Presence. And it's a haunted house story told from the POV of the spirit.
Interesting.
It's didn't do very well, I think, because it is so different. But for me, it was fascinating. It's like watching a family drama, but it's the ghost that's seeing it all. But you felt like you were this dead presence in the house.
Wow.
And roamed the halls and eavesdropped on these conversations. And it was very powerful in that sense, is that you kind of experienced what it'd be like to be like the beginning of the movie is just the ghost, I guess, kind of appearing in the house in this closet, and the house is empty. And you're just wandering these hallways, almost like you're trying to figure out where you are and what's going on. And it gets very emotional at times just because of that.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that movie out. That sounds awesome.
It is. It's well worth it. It just came out on VOD for rent and purchase kind of thing, and it's worth your dime for sure.
Do you know what was going through my brain when I was listening to you talk about that is I was trying to think of movies where ghosts are the central part, where the character's a ghost, and I thought of Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
I loved that movie. I've loved that movie since I was a kid. I remember watching it with my parents when I was younger, and I was like, I liked that idea that it showed you his journey through both sides and like talking to mediums and all that stuff. And also there's a video game that's very similar to that, and it's called, oh, that's going to bug me now. I can see the cover in my head, but I can't think of it. But anyways, it's a film noir kind of video game. You're a cop in the 40s. You get murdered by a serial killer, shot out a window.
Oh, wow.
And you play the entire game as yourself, as a ghost, trying to solve your own murder, basically. And you can possess people, hear their thoughts, see through their eyes. There's wraiths that are trying to grab you and drag you to the afterlife. You have to try to escape them. And then you end up pairing up with a psychic that can see you and talk to you, and she acts as like your way to interact with the real world, you know.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Because that'd be wild. You gave enough people could search it.
It's in my PlayStation library, so I know when I get home, I'm literally going to go right to it, and then I'm going to be like, hey, Jason, here it is. Right here.
But that sounds fantastic. I think another movie that does a really good job of sort of touching on death is Constantine with Keanu Reeves, right? Because it not only deals with the Rachel Weisz's character losing her twin and the whole circumstances around that, but in that movie, Constantine is dying of cancer, and it's kind of how he is trying to respond to that, and how he spent his whole life after killing himself trying to buy his way back into heaven. And so that plays with a lot of different themes, but death is at the very forefront.
Yeah.
And the fear of it.
Segue, but the Constantine movie has my favorite depiction of Lucifer on screen ever.
Peter Stormare.
Yeah.
He is so good. He's only in it for like 5 minutes, but he just
that scene when he tears the cancer out of Keanu's chest and is like, no, you live.
And as Keanu's getting pulled up by the light, his fingers in back over the shoulder, which was such a Constantine thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the one he shows up and Constantine's like, hey Lou, how's the family? Oh, good. Busy.
Yeah. Do you know one of my favorite movies that deals with death in a supernatural, but a much more way that you don't get to see anything or really experience any kind of like existential dread. Let me rephrase how that goes. There's no like supernatural creatures. There's no Final Destination.
Yes. Yeah, there's no guy in a cloak with a scythe running around killing these people. It's almost literally like what the circumstances of death are.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you escaped this thing just by chance, but other chance is going to find you.
There's still it was your time. You've just got a little bit of borrowed time, and you're still toast anyways.
Yeah. And I remember specifically how the second movie, Final Destination 2, when it came out, it sparked an entire generation of people who can't drive behind logging trucks.
I still go past those logging trucks. I just get by them as quickly as possible. That is one of, getting out of even the context of the movie, that is one of the most cleverly staged sequences I've ever seen in a movie. It's all stunt work.
Yeah.
All stunt work. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And that one thing that I found fascinating about that movie was the situations that are set up all the time are completely plausible.
Yeah, it is. It's just, that's why I think there's a new one coming out too. I think people just really respond to these things that are like, it's all just these accidental circumstances that lead you to die. And that's generally what happens in life if you don't die naturally.
Yeah, and what I loved about it was it really thematically explores the inescapability of death.
Yeah, they're all screwed.
Yeah.
All the characters in these movies, no matter what.
The guy has just this random vision and manages to get them all off in the first one, the plane that's going to explode. Yeah. And he's like, it's going to blow up, and saves everybody's life. But then, a year later, they're all just dying.
Yeah. They're so good. So good. What Dreams May Come, the Robin Williams movie.
Oh, love that movie.
Yeah, is another really good one. More dealing with thematical material, but, dying and going to the other side. There's a schmaltzy Nicolas Cage movie called The Family Man.
Oh, yes.
That plays on that as well. He's given almost kind of like a second chance, right, to do it right. And then, of course, A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
It's all about
Christmas Carol.
All about it. So...
Yeah, what I found interesting doing all my research was how you can categorize any kind of pop culture story that has to do with death or the fear of death. You can categorize it into a group, into different groups.
Okay, and do you know those groups?
Yeah, some of the ones that I found, for example, you think of there's what happens after.
Yeah.
Right? Which, like you mentioned, a great example of is What Dreams May Come, right? Then there's what if we don't really die? Which is pretty much every zombie movie or werewolf movie ever, to How Do We Die, which is like Final Destination, horror, etc.
All the slasher movies.
Yeah, and then there's Can We Escape Death, which is things like Flatliners, right?
Which is also good. Not the remake, but the original one.
Yeah, and I just find it funny that our relationship with death as an inescapable fact has been responsible for probably the most predominant amount of storytelling in human history.
You're right. It's almost every story comes back to it in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's like a love story, there's ultimately, maybe not with the main characters, but somewhere someone has died and that's why the girl is afraid to love. You know what I mean? Like there's all these different elements that play into it in some way. It's a part, I think, of every story because it's a part of every life.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you think of some of the most interesting characters that can't die, then you start getting into some really interesting theology, like what does that do to a person's psyche? Like Wolverine, Deadpool, Picture of Dorian Gray. There's all these different explorations of what would happen to the psyche of a person who is no longer part of the natural progression.
I always think of Highlander. Even though
there can be only
right? But because he outlived, he found he was immortal. He still went and had her, even though Sean Connery's character said don't create close ties. He still fell in love, and he watched the woman he loves died, and that affected as he went on. He didn't have any real relationships until like the one in the movie. Because I think being immortal would suck after a while, especially if you didn't age at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. Like there's times where I've wished for immortality or at least an extended lifespan just to see where humanity's going. Because I being a huge fan of science fiction and, like sociology and psychology, I want to see what happens. Like, do we become Star Trek? Do we get to that Mecca and we're exploring the stars? Or do we become Dune, where we're the same people just in space? Or do we become Mad Max, which if, things keep going the way they're going right now down south, that's most likely.
We might actually see that in our lifetime.
Speaking of our lifetime too, and like one of the most phenomenal cultural experiences to occur in our lifetime, Jason, involving a significant upheaval in death anxiety was COVID-19. Yeah,
I think that really put it foremost in people's minds because nobody anticipated we'd go through that, even though every 100 years it happens. If you're a student of history, it was only a matter of time. But yeah, that was traumatic for so many, for myself too. Like just the whole thought of having this young child and this disease around and no one knew anything about it.
Yeah.
It was just right there. And I think that has heightened all of our anxieties in the years since.
Yeah. And if I had $1 for every time I had a conversation with one of my friend groups about The Stand during COVID-19, like if it happens, are you going to Vegas or Idaho?
What do you do? Right. And that almost became Mad Max too, because supply chains were broken. You know what I mean? There was so much.
Yeah.
I think horror movies became increasingly popular over that period so people could just, again, vicariously experience and hopefully feel better in some way.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing that's interesting too, that came up is the, media, pop culture, and political manipulation of society's death anxiety has really blurred the lines between what is a legitimate fear and what is manufactured in order to manipulate you somehow.
Well, if it bleeds, it leads has always been the journalistic phrase. And that's become, it's across the board now. You can't even trust news headlines.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to get you to click on it, to read it. That's why it's called doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Kenton, because I think that's an important thing as we close this out to talk about how now anxiety in general is such a part of our culture because people have found a way to profit off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And one thing that's really important that, you know, like as this being the end of our season and the end of this first part of our journey, you know, if you experience any of these things, if you have death anxiety and it's affecting you, like if you find you can't live your life because you're afraid or you're scared to go out your house or you're scared of what Trump's going to do this week or you're scared of what Putin might do if he comes across the Arctic. Like if these kind of things are affecting your ability to live your life, talk to somebody. You know, mental health is a very serious issue. It's a very serious issue. We need to do more to get rid of that stigma. So don't be afraid. Like everybody is anxious about death. Death anxiety affects everyone. But if you find it's affecting your ability to live your life well, then reach out.
Exactly. That is actually a great way to end this. All of these are things that you can face and overcome. There's two other Stoic concepts that I think are really good, there's one called amor fati, which is love of fate. You just accept that no matter what's happening is going to happen and it's out of your realm of control. But you can control how you approach it.
That's awesome.
And I love that one. And a part of that too is be the master of your own mind. If other people are able to manipulate you with your anxieties, like not even people, but news, media, what's happening somewhere, another part of the world we have no control over it, you're not the master of your mind. So focus very much on controlling your own thought processes. You can do it through meditation, go to counseling, that kind of thing. All of that helps. And I hope that people who have listened to this and enjoy it, and like Kenton said, maybe are struggling, can take advantage of some of these concepts, research them more.
Yeah. Ultimately, this podcast was about exploring and educating, you know, and you know, helping people understand that these phobias exist, that they're real, that people suffer them. And if they're causing you, you know, severe and persistent fear of these trigger things, that it's worth it to look into it more, explore it, get some help.
Yep, exactly. And then go out and explore the world. Yes. For it's a wondrous place.
Live your life and spend your time well.
Kent and I will be back eventually with a whole other season of Fears and Phobias on the Echoes of Fear podcast. But until then, I'm Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Kenton J. Moore. We hope you enjoyed the journey. Please reach out to us on social media and give us any tips, feedback, comments, or suggestions for the next season.